Hello and welcome again to Stu and Ru. No, Ru and Stu. Sorry, getting it the wrong order. In the shed. So anyway, Ruth, who have we got to talk to this week?
We've got Graham Barnett. So welcome, Graham. And this is Cromwell, who's here with us. So welcome. Okay. And the first question I'd like to ask is how you came to faith and what difference does it make?
Okay. Well, I was actually brought up in a Christian home. We lived in a very small village called Ashton Underhill, which is in Worcestershire, sort of part way between Evesham and Cheltenham, for those that may not know the area. So I was brought up in a Christian home and was always taken along to the local chapel in the village. But obviously taken was the point there, really. And eventually got to sort of teenage years and thought that there ought to be something more exciting in life. But there was another friend who in the village was taken along to chapel as well. And we were good pals. And it got to the point where he learned to drive and got a car. So we thought we'd go and explore the big city of Worcester. So we started going into Worcester on a Sunday evening to the Elim Church in Worcester, partly because it just kept our parents happy to know that we were going somewhere, but also obviously partly to get away from the chapel environment that we were in. And also we thought that going into Worcester we would meet a few more young people and possibly meet some young ladies there as well. And so that's what we did, and we carried on going into Worcester, and I particularly then got involved with the young people there and began to get involved in the various activities that were going on in the church there. And really that's how my faith grew. So, as I say, although I'd been brought up in a Christian home, I'd never really made that commitment. And it was only really then when we were in Worcester with the young people there and getting involved in things that commitment happened. And it was a sort of more of a gradual process, really. There wasn't any sort of bright light or anything like that, or clash of thunder or anything, but it was more of a sort of gradual commitment then as I got more involved and came to know the Lord really more from there.
And did you meet any young ladies?
Well, yes, as it happens, I did meet a young lady there, and we have now been married for just over 50 years. So, yes, it achieved both purposes, really.
Good.
Oh, and what difference does your faith make?
Well, it's made a tremendous difference. I mean, obviously, it's difficult in the sense that you can't really compare the two, can you? In the sense that because, you know, I was always brought up in a Christian environment, I've made that commitment in my late teens and obviously been committed since then. And so there's nothing really in that sense to compare it to. But obviously, you know, faith has been just the major part of our lives, both of us, through our married life, through the family, through everything else that we've done. And Lynn's family particularly are not Christians, so it's given us the opportunity to, you know, just show our Christianity. Really, we've not sort of preached in that sense to them, but we've just hopefully tried to live a life that is a Christian life and as an example to others, and that's what we've attempted to do. So in that sense, yes, I mean, our whole life has been based around our faith and based around the church.
You live in Weston on the Green. What would you tell anyone who's never been there? What are the exciting things about Weston?
Well, we live here, which is probably the most exciting thing, of course, but it's only a very small village, obviously, but it's a nice village. There's a good community atmosphere here. It's very friendly. I mean, it's grown quite a bit since we first moved here, but so there are perhaps more people here now that maybe don't know each other than there used to be, but it's a good place to live. I mean, to be honest, it was only ever going to be a temporary thing for us. We had to move fairly quickly from Worcester down into the Oxford area. Very much more expensive here than it had been in Worcester, so we struggled to find somewhere to live, to be honest. And at the point, it was only ever going to be a temporary thing, but we're still temporary in that sense. We're still living in the same house we moved into in 1984, and probably enjoying it more now than ever.
And is Tim Henman your sort of famous resident in the village or something?
Absolutely, yes. Tim Henman was our famous resident. Our daughter and her friends were often known to be hiding behind the tennis court at Tim Henman's house in order to get a glimpse of him playing tennis. But his parents still live here.
Now, if you moved to Weston in the 1980s, what took you so long to find KBC? Come on, what have you been doing?
Well, as I said previously, we were members of the Elim Church in Worcester. We moved down here with my job, and so we then continued worshipping at Elim Church in Oxford. It was the place we knew. It was the place, Elim had been the movement that we'd been involved in. So we attended the Elim Church in Oxford, and we were there until 2 or 3 years ago. Unfortunately, the church actually closed down, so we were then looking for somewhere else to worship. We obviously knew of KBC because, as it happens, we had known Graham and Eunice Guy for a very long time. I first met Graham back in Worcester when we were with the youth group there. So we knew Graham from then, and obviously then got to know Eunice as well. We knew David and Joanna Evans from their time when they were in Elim anyway. We also knew Doreen Whitten because she lives not far from here and was involved with WI in Weston. So with those contacts and knowing a little bit about KBC, we decided we would come and give it a go. So that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years.
So when you worked, Graham, what did you do?
I worked for AC Nielsen, the market research company based up on the London Road at Headington. That's their head office, their English head office. So I actually joined them back in 1969, wow. Initially working from home at Worcester, working out in the field, collecting data for market research information. And then got a promotion into the head office in 1984. So that's why we then had to move into the Oxford area. So I was then based at their head office in Headington there until I retired in 2008. So I was actually working for them for 39 years.
Wow, it's a long time.
It was a long time, yes.
And one of the things we wanted to ask you is what's kept you going during the lockdown? What's sustained you?
Yeah, well, I sort of sit back and think, well, what has happened over this past year? It seems to have gone very quickly, really. And I think, well, have I actually wasted that time? But one of the things I do like to do each day is just sit in the conservatory and watch the birds on the bird feeders. I could sometimes perhaps spend too long doing that, but that's an enjoyable thing to do. I enjoy walking, so I certainly try and go out for a walk every day. There are some nice walks around here, obviously, so we do that every day. I try and get a session in on the exercise bike most days, but it's not necessarily every day. And we obviously have family, although it's been difficult not seeing family or not seeing so much of the family during lockdown. But we have been roped into doing some homeschooling for our grandchildren up north. So via the internet, we've been doing some homeschooling with them while they've been off school as well. And there are sort of various organisations in the village as well, which we've been involved in, albeit during lockdown it's obviously been more difficult, obviously, but there are things going on in the village still that we are involved in. So that's really just sort of taken up our time, really.
Yeah. So what's your specialist subject in the homeschooling?
Well, I'm not sure that I would have a specialist subject, but I've been roped in to do the maths.
Oh, okay.
With my grandson. Lynn's doing she's been doing English and history with our granddaughter, and then I've been doing the maths with our grandson. But a lot of the terminology has changed. So although the basics are the same, the terminology is very different these days to when we were at school.
Yeah.
I think you're a man with practical skills, and that you were very involved with the manse preparation and renovation.
Yes. I think DIY has always been a case of having to be in our house. So yes, I have been involved in DIY, and was very happy to help out at the manse with the painting and decorating at the time. Yeah.
So what kind of things do you, I mean, I do none of this at all, so I don't even know the questions, but what kind of stuff do you enjoy doing in a practical way?
Anything really. I'm quite nothing too technical in that sense, but I'm quite happy to do sort of fitted out the kitchen a few times, and obviously done various painting and decorating. Have reorganised various things. We live in a bungalow, but it has a loft conversion. But so that needed redoing a little while ago. So stripped that out and re-plasterboarded. And fortunately, my son does some plastering, so we can get him involved in the actual plastering. I wouldn't attempt that, but anything else, I'm quite happy to have a go at. Not sure that I necessarily enjoy any of it, but I'm quite happy to do it.
And one of the questions we ask is, if you could choose two people to be in lockdown with you, other than your family, obviously, what two people would you choose?
Difficult question, but the first person that came to mind was Eric Cantona.
Oh, okay.
May seem a very odd choice, but
Cantona.
that's right.
Cantona.
I was fascinated. I think he was a brilliant footballer anyway, so enjoyed watching him, and just fascinated by him as a character as well, and just thought it would be great fun just to have conversations with him. Whether I could understand him or not, I'm not sure, but it was just. He's French, yes, but he does speak English. But
just remember, Graham, that the reason that the seagulls follow the trawlers is because they think that sardines will be thrown in the water.
Absolutely, and that might be one of the questions to ask him, exactly what he meant by that. But yeah. And I think the other person along the same theme actually would be Sir Matt Busby.
Oh, right.
As a child, I was sort of fascinated by Sir Matt Busby, the Busby Babes, the Munich air disaster, and all the things that went on during that time. And I was just sort of fascinated by that. And I think he always came across as such a gentleman, really, such a lovely fella and such a gentleman. And I just thought, how interesting it would be just to chat to him as well about the sort of the glory days of Law, West and Cholton, etc., and chat to him.
Sort of wonder how well Cantona and Busby would have got on. I think Busby
Well, yes.
That
could have been
might have thought that some of Eric's antics.
Yeah, an interesting part of the conversation, I think.
Yeah, no, those are good choices. Yeah.
So it is one of the questions was, what are you passionate about? What do you like? Is football a passion for you, or?
Football is a passion for me. It always has been. Yes, I played when we were younger, and I've always enjoyed watching football. So that's one passion, certainly. And walking, I think, always my passion. Walking and outdoor life, really, nature,
Yeah.
And as it's mentioned, bird watching and so on. My father was always very keen on the outdoor life and taught us well when we were young. And that's something that I've always enjoyed doing. And I currently am the public footpath warden for Weston on the Green. So means walking the footpaths as often as I can, really make sure that they are walkable, that they're accessible for everybody, and carry out some sort of minor repairs if necessary, or anything more structural, contact Oxfordshire County Council and get them to come out and deal with it. So that's quite good fun, because that can incorporate something useful, hopefully, with a passion for walking as well.
What a great.
If your two passions are football and walking, I mean, why? I mean, I play walking football. Why are you not playing walking football?
Lynn said to me the other day, we were watching something, and she said, "Oh, you ought to go and join Stuart doing the walking football."
Yeah. Sadly, it's closed down for the moment.
I know,
but
yes.
I'd loved it. I'd loved it.
Yeah. It was quite ironic, really, when we were younger playing football. My father, being a true chapel gentleman, was not keen on us playing football on Sundays. And that was always the thing then, that, oh no, we shouldn't be kicking a ball around on a Sunday. But the team we played for, one of the local village teams, we were able to use the football pitch at a local monastery. There was a monastery in the next village. And one of the reason we were able to use their football pitch was that we had to then play football with them, give their team a game every so often, but they were only allowed to play on a Sunday, because Sunday was their rest day. So of course we had to play against their team on a Sunday, which my father was not very happy about.
And is there a Bible verse? Have you got a favourite Bible verse, or several?
Well, yes, it's difficult to choose from, isn't it? But I think one that always sticks in my mind, when I was baptised, I was given the Bible verse of Philippians 4:19. My God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory through Christ Jesus. And I think that was given to me, as I say, as a promise at my baptism, but I think it's something that has seen us through our Christian lives, our married lives, really. And again, referring back to my father, we were not a well-off family, but he always maintained that if he got his last £5 note and he could give it to somebody who was in need, he knew that he would get that £5 back somehow or other within the next week or two, and that was something that he always lived by. And I think it's something that has just sort of lived with us as well, and has been very important for us throughout our married life.
Just thinking, you've had quite a broad church experience. I mean, going from the monastery to Elam, and then finding the one true church at the end.
Well, yes, indeed, yes. One other thing which we were involved in, just as a matter of interest, we were involved in a lot when we were in Elim, was the Elim Youth Camp on the Isle of Wight. And they ran a youth camp on the Isle of Wight for many years, and we were involved in particularly helping at that for a number of years, which was a great experience, really. They took about 200 children from London who were primarily sponsored by social services, and took them and gave them a couple of weeks holiday on the Isle of Wight every year. So we were involved in that for sort of probably almost 20 years. So 2 weeks in August every year for almost 20 years, we were camping on the Isle of Wight and looking after these 200 children, which was a great experience, and really was great for our faith as well, I think, in being involved in that.
Yeah. Like Soul Survivor, that sort of,
Yeah. But these were not, these were younger, they were sort of primarily sort of junior school age children. So, and it was just a sort of holiday for them.
Yeah.
I think, Ruth, it's time for our last question.
Yeah, here he is.
Right, okay.
Cromwell, Cromwell would like to know, cats or dogs?
Dogs, definitely dogs.
Ooh, Cromwell, you got a yes. That's great. Thank you. You happy, Cromwell?
Got to keep Cromwell happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So on that happy note,
Yeah.
we will say that's all we've had time for, and thanks again to our guest Graham for giving us the time, and Ruth and I will be back. I think it's next week with a brand new show, as they say. Thanks very much.
Thank you.